Morris, esteemed members of the Tuskegee administration, faculty, staff, students, and all the outstanding entrepreneurs, investors, partners, bankers, farmers, sponsors, business leaders, and advocates, I'm truly honored to be your speaker for the 25th Annual Booker T. Washington Conference. And special love and thanks for my new friend, Gary Walton, for inviting me to be here today. I'm so humbled you would recognize my family and our stand and study to completely live off the businesses, professionals, and products of our Black community for an entire year, known around the world as the Empowerment Experiment, at this triumphant occasion and during these tough and trying times. About 10 years ago, Publishers Weekly, in reviewing my book, Our Black Year, One Family's Quest to Buy Black in America's Racially Divided Economy, called this issue, The Lack of Support of Black Businesses and the Rapid Exit of Dollars from Black Communities, a dynamite subject, and my family's experiment, historic and effective. And the Library Journal said my book successfully illuminates the roadblocks faced by Black business owners and the racial divide that continues to persist in the US economy. They also said that my book will appeal to students of sociology and economics, as well as those looking for inspiration to effect positive change in their communities. Alfred Edmond, editor of Black Enterprise, said, "The Andersons' economic odyssey is nothing short of heroic." Kathy Hughes, owner of the Radio 1, TV 1 empire, said, "Thank God for this level of commitment to our Black community." But we didn't create the empowerment experiment, then see it through. We didn't impose our Black year on our 2- and 3-year-old daughters then for kudos or great book reviews. We did it to get here, to unite with you. I am here asking you to unite and fight for our economic future, for an economically just America, filled with prospering Black-owned businesses and thriving Black neighborhoods. I took that stand and I'm here because I want my little girls to know that not only they can buy from JCPenney's, that was the 50s and 60s, or work at JCPenney, we fought for that. My girls need to know that they can own JCPenney's. So now it's time to unite and fight for that too. Let's unite and fight for an America with all kinds of people shopping at a retailer or grocer started by a Black family, looking for our franchises and consumer goods brands and designers, growing our global conglomerates, depending on our expertise and professionals, banking with us, staying in our hotels, just like we do everyone else. Let's unite, all of us, for this America, where an already broken and bereft Black neighborhood is not the only place where every other ethnic group or majority enterprise can set up shop and achieve the American dream. You know, in America, Booker T's America, where there's some reciprocity for that, manifest in thriving Black-owned businesses in Little Italy, in Chinatown, in Koreatown, in Greektown, downtown, and the affluent, predominantly white suburbs. Why not? In America, where it's not a ridiculous notion to a Black child that someone like her can own a grocery chain or a drugstore, that the toaster her mama buys at Walmart, the paint her uncle got at the Home Depot was possibly made by a Black family company, where that Black child can go to the corner candy store or bakery and see an owner who looks like and looks out for her. In America, where middle class and working class Black families and Black-owned businesses and storefronts and professionals are welcomed, a draw, not a deterrent or a disturbance, in burgeoning and beautiful neighborhoods. I'm fighting for that America for just over 11 years now. It's been 11 years since the empowerment experiment, my public stand and study to buy Black only for an entire year. You know, our stand and sacrifice dominated headlines, front pages across the globe, countless TV and radio shows, newspapers and magazines. We touched millions. Then I wrote my book, Our Black Year, which is a tribute to our country's Black business history, a tribute to Booker T and his principles, and a detailed account of our stand. Kellogg at Northwestern University completed a landmark study based on my family's receipts and the data we collected that year. And that study proved that close to 1 million new American jobs could be created if just some of us would make small changes and sacrifices to buy Black. Here are a few more highlights from the empowerment experiment. We spent or otherwise invested a little over $94,000 that year with Black businesses that we would not have otherwise. 90% of our spending went back into underserved, predominantly Black areas. We went without. We were disappointed by the number of markets and industries where Black firms suffer from a complete lack of representation. We were disheartened by our own people's lack of pride and solidarity. Our hearts ached seeing up close what my people, Black people, have to go through in these retail and food deserts. can't get a fresh piece of fish or a banana, forced to settle for inferior goods and service, extortionate prices, and enduring disrespect from shop owners who don't look like and won't live in the community, but come into the community every day, remove the padlock from the steel gates of the bars, and take money through that slit in the bulletproof glass. And then at the end of the day, they put that steel door back down and they put that padlock back on. And then they drive home to their suburbs and enclaves to build up their local tax bases and school systems and send their kids to college and buy their dream homes and vacations with poor Black people's hard-earned wealth. It was hurtful and fearful being called a racist, a Nazi, and the other N-word, getting death threats and hate mail because I want to expose the truth about economic inequality, because I want to inspire more Americans of all stripes to buy from Black-owned businesses. It still hurts my heart when I think about what my baby girls went through that year, begging me, their mama, for fruit and toys, going to school crying with their shoes too tight, belly poking out of their shirts, and coming home crying because they were teased, all because it took 5 months to find one Black-owned shop offering toddler clothing and shoes. I made my babies eat gas station food like old putrid bologna and overpriced, oversugared cereal for dinner because the one Black-owned grocery store we could find closed 5 months before we finished our year. All those businesses we saw and supported, we loved and lived off of, the ones you read about in the book, not just the grocery store, they're all gone. And then 1 month after we finished our Black year, my mother died in my arms, losing a hard-fought battle with pancreatic cancer. My immigrant mother, a Cuban farm girl who never made it to high school, but was wise enough to teach me that despite what our Cuban peers in Miami, Florida told us, our being from Cuba didn't make us not Black or less Black. That just meant that my Black ancestors were dropped off a little earlier. That was my Mima. Mima was sick and dying the whole year. And I know she suffered longer than she would have just to live to see her only American-born child fulfill this pledge to our Black community and our country. Yes, we did lose a lot that year, but we learned a lot too. And that's really significant because before that year, John and I thought that we had it all and that we knew it all. My husband, John, is from Detroit. He left to get his undergraduate degree in economics from Harvard. Then my courageous and gorgeous nerd got his MBA in economics and entrepreneurial finance at Northwestern. And he's a financial advisor now. So if any of you are looking for Black entrepreneurs to support, take it from your learned keynote speaker. He is the best, he is brilliant, and he is definitely Black. I grew up in Miami, Black part of town called Liberty City. And then I went to college at Emory. And while I was in Atlanta, I worked as an aide to our recently passed on civil rights hero, Congressman John Lewis. Then I headed to Chicago for graduate school, just like John did, but I went to the University of Chicago for my MBA and my law degree. And I was able to serve with and learn from another civil rights hero, then law professor and community organizer, Barack Obama, turned 44th president of the United States of America. And we fell in love while we were both in graduate school. Now that's John and I, not the president and I. Don't get Michelle on me. We found great jobs at big companies, bought a home in a pricey suburb, had our own 2 beautiful little girls, and we're living out our fancy fairy tale life. And we supported a community, sort of. We're active in the youth ministry at our Black church. John's a mentor with 100 Black men. We voted Black. We hurt when Black people got shot on the South Side. We got happy when Black folks were nominated for awards and the Black coach made it to the Super Bowl. We are teaching our daughters to love themselves, their God, their neighbor, their country, and their skin. We were Black, just not buying Black, just like so many most proud, prospering Black people, but everything else, very, very Black. Y'all know what I mean? But hey, we tithed, right? We donated to the UNCF. Wasn't that enough? Philanthropy is commendable, but it must not cause the philanthropist to overlook the circumstances of economic injustice which make philanthropy necessary. Dr. King said that. So what are those circumstances of economic injustice and what are we supposed to do about them? In Asian American communities, a dollar circulates among the banks and retailers and professionals for 28 days before it's spent outside. In the Jewish community in America, the circulation period is 19 to 21 days. In the Black community, the dollar lives 6 hours. 6 hours. So what can one couple do about that? We didn't know, but we did know some other facts. That before integration, under Booker T. Washington's leadership, and then during Dr. King's young life, When we had the locally owned businesses, our dollars circulated in the community for years, hundreds of millions in our hotels, hospitals, department stores, hardware stores, grocery stores, dry cleaners, accountants, lawyers, bakers, mechanics, and through our shipping yards and steel mills and sugar mills and farming regions and all the property that we owned and land that we owned and passed on, our brokerages, insurance companies, and banks. And nationally, unemployment was at the same level as that of whites and sometimes lower than that of whites from 1880 all the way through 1940. This employment gap we see now and attached to the color of our skin only materialized with integration. Before that, lower. We employed each other in our self-sustained and vibrant neighborhoods in Tulsa and Durham and Tampa and Louisville's Russell neighborhood, Sistrunk Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, Bronzeville in Chicago, Harlem, Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, Magic City in Birmingham, Lincoln Avenue in Cincinnati, and so many more. This is what young King saw growing up. He saw the fruits of Booker T's leadership and the Negro Business League. He saw the fruits of Madam C.J.'s labor, the mother of the Black hair care industry and the first Black woman millionaire. Sister Walker made those millions and then enabled the NAACP and the National Conference on Lynching. King, growing up in the 40s and 50s, saw how the Black business owners maintained legal defense funds. Black homeowners offered collateral and bailed our jailed marchers out. Hotel owners gave shelter and helped when the marchers, the everyday freedom fighters, got fired from their jobs, when they were hurt and hospitalized and threatened. A.G. Gaston's hotel was sacred ground, housing civil rights meetings, lodging our leaders right there in Alabama. He saw thriving Black-owned grocery stores, beauty stores, drug stores. King saw all that. We were united and organized. We were prepared for the attacks. We were planning for the progress. We were proud and eager to preserve the power and prosperity we had earned. Not like now. We don't have any of that now. We're still here. We're still here. And so is the racism and inequality they risked and gave their lives to fight. And we're feeling it, right? We're feeling what they felt back then, huh? Right? The systemic racism in education and housing and health and farming and just general opportunity, the neglect, the exploitation, the attacks from the police. We feel what they felt back then. So let's fight like they fought and buy like they bought. We're talking about rebuilding our Black community post-pandemic, post-George Floyd. So much death and dismay. How dare we? How do we come out of this victorious? In those last days of King, after the bus boycott, after the March on Washington, after the Civil Rights Act, after integration, King feared that our civil rights victories might come at the expense of our business ownership and entrepreneurial ones, that our exhaustion and relief from getting the vote, from getting integration, would evolve into complacency or worse, co-optation. And that's why in his famous mountaintop speech that he delivered the day before he was murdered, King pivoted and discussed the future of Black economics like we're doing today. He spoke of our collective buying power and urged an economic withdrawal from businesses that were discriminating against Black workers or mistreating Black customers. And not just that, King specifically fought for Black-owned businesses in that mountaintop speech, not just the right to go to white-owned segregated ones. King said, "We've got to strengthen Black institutions. I call upon you to take your money out of the banks downtown and deposit your money into Tri-State Bank. We want a bank-in movement in Memphis, not just a sit-in. We're telling you to do what we're doing." We, meaning the SCLC. Put your money there. Put your money there. He asked us to support these banks and businesses. He asked us to behave and believe in the collective. He said, put your money there. Do what we're doing. That's the vision he had for our economic future. That was his dying dream, and now it is mine. I say the future is about unity and solidarity, collective investment and empowerment. It's our soul, our success factor, our saving grace. We got to get that soul back. And when we get that, we get our success back. In the 2 decades after Dr. King's murder, it became fashionable to abandon the Black banks and businesses, to show and prove that we're good enough to buy from the businesses once denied to us. Within 20 years after we lost King, 85% of our over 120 Black-owned banks disappeared. That's not the Booker T way, In the 1930s, grocery stores represented the largest category of Black-owned businesses. We had 6,400 in America. When Kellogg did that famous study based on my family's year in 2010, Kellogg could only find evidence of 8 to 12 groceries owned by Black firms in this country. That's terrible. That's not the Booker T way. That's terrible for Black people and America. In North Philadelphia, predominantly Black area, for example, over 90% of the businesses there are not locally or Black owned. And I'm sure it's not too different in the predominantly Black areas across Alabama. You know that. You've seen that. You know it's not right. You know it's gotten worse for so many Black firms since 2020. And that's why you're here. Black beauty supply stores in Black neighborhoods with 100% Black clientele. Less than 3% across America are Black owned. And not just the banks and the groceries and beauty supply stores. We lost Black hair care too. The one industry birthed by the Black community, belonging to us, celebrating us, sustaining us, helping us, especially Black women, thrive and achieve the American dream. In 1986, again, less than 20 years after losing King, Irving J. Bartner, who was the CEO of Revlon, when asked about competition from Black-owned firms in the Black hair care industry, Bartner said this to Newsweek. In the next couple of years, the Black-owned businesses will disappear. They'll all be sold to white companies. And he was right. Sport and Wave, Less Jam, Carefree Curl, Strength of Nature, Cream of Nature, Dark and Natural, Stay Soft Fro, Dark and Lovely, Smooth and Shine, Carol's Daughter, all owned by L'Oreal, a French company owned by Liliane Bettencourt and her family. Liliane died in 2017 as the world's richest woman. Why? Because by 2000, L'Oreal owned all the largest Black hair care companies. And a couple of years ago, Unilever put the nail in the coffin when they bought Nubian brands. Y'all know Nubian brands. That's all the Shea Moisture products. All these brands and companies are no longer Black owned. And the fantastic Black owned companies we do still have can't get into the big retailers because the L'Oreals and the Unilevers edge them out. Less than 5% of the Black hair care section represents Black owned companies. That's what that racist Botner wanted. That's what he promised, planned for, and predicted. And Langston Hughes also predicted what would happen to us without economic unity in his poem called The Ballad of Booker T. The Ballad of Booker T. It goes, the tallest tower can tumble down if it not be rooted in solid ground. So being a far-seeing and practical man, he said, train your head, your heart, and your hand. Your fate is here and not afar. So let down your bucket where you are. Let down your bucket where you are. So I pour into my bucket every day. My coffee, my home alarm system, my dry cleaner, my pediatrician, my dentist, my neurologist, my optometrist, my reading glasses I got on, John's contacts, his glasses, the wine we drink, the vodka, the whiskey, the pizza we eat, popcorn, all my seasons and sauces, Patty, sweet potato pies, yes, Patty! Our nightclubs, John's dress shirts, his suits and ties, his cufflinks, all my makeup, my perfume, my hair products, the restaurants we go to, the coffee shops we go to, my daughter's orthodontist, our expensive orthodontist, her dentist, Corey's dermatologist, John's chiropractor, all my designer purses and shoes, my nail salon, my spa, what else? Oh yes, my mortgage, all Black owned. This is how I live my life. I'm not some depressed and overworked activist because I got to look for Black firms. Once I let my bucket down, that part is not as hard as you think and not nearly as hard as the situation is dire. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. You ready? I'm still fly. I am still fly. And yes, these sunglasses come from a Black company. I'm still fly. I am a Titan. I'm fly. And I'm using the tools that Booker T and Dr. King left for me. My point is, COVID and the police brutality and voter suppression raging on does not mean we press pause on our commitment to economic equality and unity, to leading with industry and intelligence, to building ourselves up with our own entrepreneurial success and solidarity. We can, we did, and we must do all of it. Or am I asking too much? Did King ask too much when he urged us to support Black institutions? Did Langston, in honor of Booker T. Washington, ask too much when he asked us to let our bucket down? Am I wasting my time today because companies like Hennessy, with over 80% of their U.S. revenues coming from the Black community and no Black distributors, no significant advertising in Black-owned media, no accounts in Black-owned banks, That kind of money, there should be Hennessy hospitals in Harlem. There should be a new chemistry lab at every HBCU. Hennessy should have large accounts with several Black banks and should have funded the new BTW Entrepreneurship and Empowerment Research and Action Center. And I should be teaching at it. Seriously though, y'all, 80% and not even a supplier diversity program, they thrive. And while Black communities, their consumers communities are under attack and falling apart. But no one talks about that. No one asks for or does or demands better. And because we don't ask and we don't talk about it, we don't take that next step and let our bucket down for Heritage Link Brands, a wonderful Black-owned wine importer owned by husband and wife, Harvard MBAs, Corey and Selena Koof. Heritage, my wine company, is the largest company in the wine industry to trade and sell Africa's Black-made wines. One of those winemakers is House of Mandela, led by the women of the Mandela family, Makasiwi and Tukwini, respectively, daughter and granddaughter of Nelson Mandela. Together, Heritage, House of Mandela, and people like me who buy that wine, we are creating jobs for Black people in the motherland and America. One of my favorite Heritage brands wines is called Bukatrabe. Bukatrabe. And I drink a lot of Bukatrabe. A lot of Bukatrabe. Not every day, just, Sunday through Wednesday, because then Thursday through Saturday, I switched to Uncle Nearest Whiskey. Award-winning Uncle Nearest Whiskey is owned by a Black family, run by a Black woman, Sister Fawn Weaver, who named her premium whiskey company after the slave and master distiller known as Nearest, who was credited for teaching a young Jack Daniels the craft of whiskey making. So that's why I drink that Bukatrabe wine or that Uncle Nearest whiskey every day. I got to make that sacrifice for my people, because ain't nothing Maggie Anderson won't do for the movement. Each sip is for the movement. I'm just a titan using my tools. I see you, Bob Dickerson, shaking your head and giggling at me. I love you, Bob. Shout out to Bob Dickerson. Seriously, though, I'm talking about big things here at Tuskegee. I'm talking to our sponsors and our partners, too, just like Booker T. Washington did. If you want what we want, you got to open yourselves up to the hurt and the hypocrisy, the lies, and how so much has been lost and taken from us. You got to wade around in here and feel some of this pain. See what it's been like for the Black people who are probably nowhere near this session today, the people whom we hardly engage but claim we want to empower. Them. We got to go to them, appreciate their pain, and then apologize, see their truth, and then plan for progress from their perspective. That's why we have this summit. You don't fight racism and inequality by just promising to hire a couple of Black folks or use a Black caterer at the next company breakfast. The promises don't show sincere empathy and respect for the struggle these hardworking entrepreneurs here today, for LaVon Lewis, for my Harvard husband, entrepreneur, for the struggle that Bob and LaVon and my husband face to thrive as an entrepreneur and simply survive as a Black man. The promises help your PR, but they do nothing to address the pain. So are you ready to ask your companies and the big companies that they engage about Black firms and their supply chains, about Black firms they engage in the community, about growing the business league? And for my sisters and brothers already in the movement, you titans, I want to challenge you too. The question for you is, are you ready to compel this change? Fight racism with your buying power, your influence, and business success. Are you ready to leave the empty and easy life and choose to sacrifice? Are you ready for public, consistent economic solidarity? Yes, we're right. We've always been right. We're old. We've always been old. But the onus is not on corporate America or any form of government or on our partners, investors, and sponsors to empower our community. Equality, yes, we're entitled to equality, but we must earn our empowerment. That's the Booker T way. So are you ready? We got to do it. We got to start that bank-in movement that Dr. King asked for. Join our Black chambers of commerce, subscribe to and advertise in our Black press, buy all of our hair and beauty products from Black-owned companies. Make sure all our professional services, accountants, doctors, lawyers, contractors, plumbers, all come from our community. Make sure we visit local Black businesses at least 4 times a month. All of this publicly, collectively. Our HBCUs, Tuskegee, our civic rights and professionals groups, we have to ask our sponsors, our allies, our donors, not just for money, but for greater engagement of our Black entrepreneurs, businesses, and institutions. We can build a strong Black community and fight racism together. Y'all know I'm right. We can protest all night and day, but we must stop fighting racism with our protests, then enabling racism with our purchases. That's our challenge for 2021 and beyond. And I really believe we can meet it. I still believe, like King did, because I peered over that mountaintop too. The more I stand up, the more I see. And I'm telling you, believe me, when we stand up together as women, as sisters, Dr. Morris, as believers and business owners, Black and not, as friends fighting for a better future, lifting each other up, even when we need lifting ourselves, we can not only see over the mountaintop, we move mountains. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to be a titan who can move mountains? Are you ready to unite? United, we make our own miracles. We move mountains. United, we cross that bridge in Selma. United, we march 385 days straight in Montgomery. United, we move mountains, because united, we always have more power than pain. Brothers and sisters, I've given you the stats, the history, my research, Langston, L'Oreal, black wine and whiskey. But you know what? Sometimes no one can break it down like our mamas. In those last weeks, when Mima's end was near, she gave her strength to me because she knew I couldn't do this without her. And before she passed, she said this, "Mija, I'm going to go out fighting. Are you?" And that's really all I've been trying to say to you, my new Tuskegee family. I'm going to go out fighting. Are you? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you in advance for a wonderful summit. Please, please buy my book, Our Black Year. Buy it at ourblackyear.com, my website, not Amazon. And I will inscribe it for you. Your money will go into a Black community bank and help the Empowerment Experiment Foundation. I love you. I'm with you. And I hope I can come back to Tuskegee in person real soon. I'm Maggie Anderson.